Lunch and Learn session focus on HR and people analytics topics. My name is Nicolas Pevani. I'm a people analytics leader, LinkedIn top voice, and very glad to host this amazing LinkedIn Live. It's a true pleasure to welcome all of you and also my special guests today to discuss about where we deep dive into thought-provoking discussion, share insight, build a stronger communicate together. We'll be 1 hour together. It's a lunchtime here in Europe. It's the perfect time to take a break, follow up, and deep dive into conversation that will shape the future of work. Excited to have today Alize Hofmeister. Good afternoon, I can say to you. How are you, Alize? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Nicolas, for having me here. It's really an honor to be here as part of your Lunch and Learn sessions because I think that LinkedIn is especially a great space to reflect, have the conversations, and create a space where people can thrive and how we can help each other. So, thank you for inviting me.
It's a true pleasure for me to have you. Thank you for accepting that. So, just information to all of you who don't know Alize. Alize is the founder of Twinster. With her background in banking, consulting, and healthcare, she brings over 20 years of experience in reshaping how organizations lead change. She's the creator of the 7 change principle that we will, during this session, we'll look at it, in details, and the book Purpose Driven People. Alize works closely with executive teams and change leaders to align strategy and real behavior shifts. And we will, have a pleasure, to listen to your insight, Alize, today. It's your event. So thank you for being with us. And also, we will go with George Tech section. Good afternoon, George. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. I've now managed to get in as a guest. I don't know what's happening there. It seems to happen to me every week, doesn't it?
No worries, George. So, welcome to the show. George is HR strategist and thoughts leader, of course. He's semi-retired, but he's still consultant for the Middle East companies. And he will bring us, his thoughts, leadership, eyes, and we'll listen for you about this topic today that is from resistance to change, readiness. Let me before we are going, to the topic, I would like, to ask our attendees where they are come from and to know to get the let's say sense of our incredible audience. So please drop your location in the comments so that we can know, where you are coming from because, as you know, George is coming from UK and Alize is coming from Netherlands, right?
Yeah, correct.
Very good, very good. I hope that we have, a very large people in the different, countries so that we can, shape and discuss about today's topic. So today's topic is a transformative conversation that we will have. Is one that's just not about artificial intelligence, but about the real intelligence that fuels every successful organization. It means his people. Today, we are driving deep into the shift from resistance to readiness. AI isn't just a technology, it's a cultural catalyst. But let's face it, the journey from acceptance to adoption is not always smooth. And that's what exactly why we are here, in order to understand what is the transformation. We will explore how to turn uncertainty into engagement, hesitation into empowerment, and disruption into opportunity. It's it's more than tools and algorithms. It's about trust, transparency, and making AI meaningful for the humans behind the screen. If you're a leader, a change agent, or just someone trying to figure out where you fit in this new world of work, this session is for you. Because when people are ready, transformation isn't just possible, it's unstoppable. So let's make AI work with your people, not around them. Let's lead this transformation the inside out. That's exactly what we will pack today with Alize and also with George about that. The first, Alize, I would like to show you one of the findings that I also shared in the LinkedIn is about Gen AI that reshapes how we recruit, develop, and engage talent. HR is becoming a strategic architect of the future workforce, from co-designing ethical AI policies of reimagining learning journeys and workforce planning. HR is no longer on the sideline of the tech decision, it's the center of them. And this shift isn't just about the tools, it's about trust, transparency, transformation, etc. So Alizé, here is a question I love to explore with you is, how do you see HR role evolving when it comes to shaping Gen AI strategy? And what does it take for HR to lead with both confidence and conscience in this area? Because in these findings, when you look at it, HR department seems to be based upon these findings, very involved. What is your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that HR really should be very involved, and so I'm happy to see this percentage that in this research of Bain & Company that 38% of the people who were part of the survey also said that they are very involved and also somewhat involved, so that's a good start. And I think if you look at it on a broader perspective, the leaders, of course, in the organizations should create the vision. What do we want to achieve? How do we see that in an ethical way? But HR can really be the orchestrator of change, because lately I also was on a conference and we had a great discussion about, do we think that people already are using AI in your organization? And of course they do. Everyone does. But if you think of bringing your own device some years ago, now it's bringing your own AI. So people bring their own AI if you don't have a vision or ethical principles, etc. Everyone will do because we love it.
Yeah.
But you want to orchestrate how you want to use that in your organization. And I think there is a critical role for HR also to help people if it's impacting their role. Because you shared, I think this week also research about that. We talk a lot about AI, the use of AI. We should use it more. People are using AI, but still do not really understand how it impacts their roles. So if it comes to impacting our roles, then something else is going on. Then we think, oh, wait a moment. It's our first response when change happens and our role is impacted. We personally are impacted. Then change is coming. Then you need to have your change skills and need to be change ready to help the people to understand where we are going to.
No, very, very relevant. And you summarize very well with the research that I shared, this week is absolutely fundamental to understand, to link why is very important. And another findings that I would like, to share with you is the same, research is about the key successful, and let's talk about the scale, and not just deploying Gen AI, but embedding in meaningful way for the companies. And as you said, very and maybe we can think about that is a leadership issues, as you have mentioned. It requires more than pilots and prototype. It demands a clear vision, as you said, governance, understanding when AI can create real business value. And what is important is about, in your view, what is the most overlooked but essential success factor when it comes to Gen AI across organization? In these findings, what they found is about strong leadership support, cross-functional collaboration, and clear use. That is more than 50% of this. In your view, what is, the best key successful factors for Gen AI or AI?
I can only say that I totally agree with these three. And that's it doesn't matter if you speak about scaling or starting to work with AI or with other toolings or other changes you want to achieve in your organization. These three factors are crucial for creating real change, because leadership, you can have your vision, but you also are the role models. and you need to understand what change entails. That's not only coming from HR. HR can help to build those skills together with the leadership and to prepare them how to lead people through the change. But they are also an employee themselves. So we must not forget that also their roles are impacted. So it's two ways. But let me give you an example what they did with KLM Air France. I interviewed them, I think 4 or 5 years ago for my book, and they started really from purpose. So they got the task to start with AI in the processes from HR perspective, so the employee processes. And the purpose of the organization is moving your world by creating memorable experiences for customers, but the same also counts for the employees in your organization, right? And then the team who started with thinking about how can we experiment in the organization with and creating use cases. So that's the third one, clear use cases. And they formed a team, a cross-functional team with people from tech, people from HR, and so on, and also communications and also change skills. And their purpose was take the robot out of the human. Based on that purpose and the values and the principles underneath, they started to think about, okay, if we now have one process for in the employee experience, what can we take out so that the human can do the more human task and more on strategic level maybe, and the robot can take over the tasks which are for the robots. So they created a virtual assistant together in the team, together with the people within HR. So it was really a collective effort. And I think that is also crucial to really get the buy-in from the people in your organization. Now, they created a virtual assistant, 𝐾𝐶D, and 𝐾𝐶D became so popular that people in the organization after a while said and called to the department and to the team. They said, "Can I speak to 𝐾𝐶D because I have a question?" And then they said, "Yeah, but 𝐾𝐶D is not here at the moment." "Oh, when is she back? Can I have a conversation later? Can I make an appointment?" And then they admitted and said, "Okay, but 𝐾𝐶D is a virtual assistant, so she is not here. Can I help you?" So that was really a great case. And they brought that into the organization. They communicated over and over again. And so they afterwards scaled in the organization their approach. And I think 𝐾𝐶D will now be an agent, but
yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for bringing this very interesting, use case for us. That is also showing that, the AI is becoming more intelligent, and more needed from for the end user, because in the end, it's the end user that they would like, to use it. What do you think, George, about, this example that, Lisette just told about the intelligence of AI and exactly this, the use case that clear usage, cross-functional, strong leadership, that this is the key success factor of Gen AI. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, there has to be strong leadership support. The cross-functional collaboration is particularly important because you make changes in one area, I guarantee it will make changes in others across the organization. So you need that collaboration to make sure that, everybody's singing from the same song sheet. Otherwise, we end up with a bit of a mess. Clear use cases. I'm going to take you back to a comment that I made on your post yesterday, Nicholas. One of the problems that I've seen with AI is when organizations try to computerize systems without first looking to see whether or not those systems need to be improved. And the way to do that is through a quality quality continuous improvement event to actually look at the value chain, look at the processes that you're looking to computerize, look at the communication and collaboration required both internally and externally, and build that into the value chain. But the people that will really know whether or not the current system works are the people on first line. You know, they're the people that will be using it day in, day out. And they would be the people that will probably come up with the actions required to improve the processes before computerization. And by involving them in the quality continuous improvement event, they can then start to co-own the change process. And I think that's extremely important. That's something that I've seen happen in the past, and it works. I've seen it the other way as well, where people haven't looked at the processes before computerization and then wonder why they've ended up in a mess. So there's two things there. One, you need to look at what your the software that you're actually going to use, and make sure that it's tied into the value chain, but in a way that actually adds value. And as I say, the people there that know what needs to be changed are going to be the people that are using it on a day-to-day basis. And if they understand why computerization or how computerization can help them in their work, then they start to own it.
And what do you think in practice, George, are companies ready for this? Because I see in some companies that they do not have a clear insight in what the processes are. So if you then start, what you also explained, if you then start to integrate AI, then maybe you mess up the entire process and don't deliver the value. But what do you see and what's your experience in organizations? Are they ready for that?
I think most organizations are, because most organizations have actually mapped out their value chain. They know, they've actually worked it back from the customer to actually look at exactly what's required to provide value and meet customer expectation. I mean, if they don't know their own processes, then, you know, how have they mapped out their value chain? How do they know what's adding value and what's not? You know, it's very, very difficult. I mean, there are some companies, as you say, that, you know, have probably never mapped the value chain, or if they have, it was years ago when they first started up, and they've just carried on, you know, the way they've always done it. And I hear that a lot. Oh, we've always done it this way. Yeah, but is it the best way of doing it? You know, how is the value chain affected by what you're doing? And, you know, if you're not mapping out the value chain, then you could be computerizing something that adds absolutely no value whatsoever, or very little.
Very good, very good. Thank you so much for this, you know, sharing this insight. Very interesting. I'm sure that, you know, all the listeners, I have a lot of insight about that. I would like, you know, to jump in another way, and not just look at efficiency that we discussed, but also AI is prompting us to rethink how it's about ethics, trust, human potential. And as we scale this technology, the question isn't just about AI, but how we can, what we want to do it, right? So, and based upon, you know, some of the research that they have shared, majority of the AI impact is about reduction of administrative burdens, improve HR service delivery, and also enhance employee experience. This is the three core values of AI can impact. And that is, if in your view, what is the most meaningful impact AI could have on the way we work, and what should leaders be doing to prepare for it?
Is your question the most painful impact or
meaningful? The most meaningful impact.
Meaningful, okay.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, the most meaningful, of course, if you look at this picture, then you already see that 84% is focused on reducing administrative burdens.
Yeah.
And that's, of course, true. But I think that it also helps us in the analyzation of our data, for instance. Do we make the right decisions? I work a lot with visual management in organizations, and what we see is that often we make decisions based on our gut feeling.
Yeah.
Feels the right way. That's a sentence you hear a lot, and we do that sometimes also in a bit of an ad hoc way,
Yeah.
not always on a systemic level. So do we have everything in place? And when we worked last week, for instance, I went to a meetup where the entire visual management system was online in a 3D version. And they also worked with AI agents to analyze the data which they have available in their organization and to give suggestions. So where can we focus on? Hey, do you see that this number, the sick leave, is very high, and it's also related to our engagement, etc. So that are some examples, but it really helps to better understand what is going on in your organization, and I think that's can be very meaningful. And if you reduce your administrative burdens, then you have hopefully also more time to spend time on that and really work on, okay, is this part of our strategy? Should we work on this? Is it contributing to our purpose? And do we need to take action? So yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point, that you highlighted here about, because everyone is thinking about, AI, or before automation, it was reduce administrative burdens, right? So we are just thinking, okay, if we reduce these administrative burdens, so people will think about more strategically, that you said, will think about more other tasks, that is, putting add value, etc. But they less think about, improve the quality, I can say, the HR delivery, the employee experience. And it's important that AI needs to think about, these two others. Good impact of the AI is about the HR delivery, employee experience, and also, I guess, the employees feedback, employees experience and feedback. What is your thoughts about that, George? Do you agree with Alize about, this administrative burdens? If we reduce that, they will focus more on other add value tasks.
Well, I liked something that Elise said there, and that was the fact of talking about analytics and analyzing data.
Yeah.
Because AI generates so much more data these days, and somebody needs to be able to manage that information that is coming in. They need to decide who requires it. They need to decide how it's going to be stored for future use. And all this comes down to the fact that somebody somewhere is going to have to analyze what's actually coming in. So, I think that's extremely important.
No, very, very interesting, point. How do you think that we can measure all of this, Alize, about how you can measure these three KPIs, for example, we are taking, based upon your experience, the impact, not only for AI impact, but transformation impact. How you measure that? Is there any general KPIs that you are using, or you are using based upon specific projects?
Yeah, it's based on specific projects. So also what you want to achieve, because that's different in different companies, right?
Yeah.
If you have, for instance, a lower productivity, then probably you want to increase your productivity. If you have low engagement, how do you increase your engagement? It's really based on what you want to achieve. And therefore, we, for instance, also when we start in a transformation or change process, we start to measure how we feel now. So if we have a very low connection between, for instance, that people think or say our execution and strategy is not connected or low connection. Okay, how can we increase that? So first you need to know what is your pain. And when are you then successful? And what should success look like? That discussion is essential because otherwise we start to do something, but we don't know what we want to solve. And when is it successful? So also in the goals, the OKRs we use, of course, we also use KPIs, but KPIs are just the health measurement, how healthy is our organization. But it doesn't change anything. And if you work with OKRs, then you start to create the objective. So what are we aiming for? And what should the result look like? What's then the success of that?
Very, very interesting. So your advice is to use OKR. Okay, very interesting.
No, yeah, we do not only use OKRs. So I work a lot with OKRs because it also helps and matches very well in the way of working we do. But it really helps to make also the difference between what is change and what is run.
Absolutely, absolutely. Any comment, George, about this topic?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at things like trying to improve productivity, a lot of that will come down to improving engagement anyway. But to improve engagement, you also have to look at employee experience. What are they experiencing? And I think a lot of that comes down to the way in which human performance is managed. So HR is going to have a big input on that.
Very, 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 very true. Very true, George. Thank you, Elise, for this, inspiring, recommendation for a lot of people that you are sharing. Another research that I have selected for today's topic is about, we are all seeing in the headlines about GenAI can boost productivity, can streamline workflows, etc. But the real question is, how do we move from potential to performance, right? So achieving the desired productivity is benefits of GenAI isn't just about plugging in a tool. It requires a thoughtful blend of infrastructure, skills, strategy. And according to that, we need, to think about the productivity payoff doesn't always happen overnight, right? We all agree about that. But with the right roadmap, organization can shift from isolated use case to enterprise-wide impact, right? So, Alice, here is a question that I have, and looking at this, great findings from this company that they are showing that, when our organization address GenAI awareness, adoption rates, and usage experience, employee can be 8% more productive. They can also be nearly 3 times as likely experience speed and quality gains from GenAI. So my question is that, what do you believe are the most critical enablers for organization to truly unlock this GenAI productivity? Getting stuck. So sorry, there was a
noise.
I apologize for that. That was the red arrows, by the way.
No worries, no worries. I will repeat my question. What do you believe are the most critical enablers for organization to truly unlock GenAI productivity based upon your experience?
I already mentioned something, I think, we had a conversation a bit in our email, because things are closely related to each other, right? Awareness is nice, but awareness is not enough. And adoption takes effort to create awareness, but also the desire to start working with it. Some people will do Some will maybe lag a bit behind, but also in the end they will start working with it. But what is important, and what I already a bit mentioned, is we also need to understand how to work with it, how to ask the right questions, what prompts should we use, how can we integrate it then in not only in our processes but also in our team. So imagine this is if you now work with a team of 5 people, for instance, then AI, is that a team member or not? And if so, what does that mean for a leader to lead a team which is more multidisciplinary than ever, because there's an agent in it who has information from the entire world? So how do you do that? What are the skills you need as a leader, and are the skills you need as an employee? And what I already said before, how does it impact my work? And there change management comes in, and your purpose. So what KLM did, for instance, they really worked based on their purpose. What do we want to achieve with it? What is our aspired situation? But you cannot go from the basement to the topic. It needs time, and you need to be aware that you first in the beginning should spend time in learning. And that takes time before you can speed up again.
So you mean that, to achieve this productivity gain of 10%, around 10%, you need time, of course. It takes times. You cannot, achieve. How long times it takes, to achieve, some goals? I know that it depends on the organization. It depends on a lot of, criteria. But what is, the average, I can say, times?
Well, within a half year, you can do a lot on experimenting with teams, and if it not impacts your role. So if you can make sure from leadership perspective, no, it doesn't impact your role in the sense that your role totally changed, or that you are no longer necessary or value in the organization, because that's a real different discussion. But it can be the part of the transformation. If that is the case, then it takes much longer. But if you start experimenting with it and you have good knowledge in your organization on tech and digitalization, then you can go faster, of course. And then what I see in organizations is people really like to be part of this. So if you make sure that the teams get the learnings, the skills, and the capabilities, and understand, hey, yes, maybe my role is a bit impacted, so I need to work in a different way. Like there's a new colleague coming in. You always need time in the norming and the storming stages in your team also. So it's a different way of collaborating. But people will then also feel the desire if they are encouraged also from leadership. So everything is connected, if you hear what I say. And change takes time. And then sometimes, because we have experiences from the past, and those experiences will never go away. So we can bring in new habits and new working habits. We can learn new habits, but we will not really unlearn our old habits. So if the pressure is high in an organization, we sometimes fall back in our old behavior. So behavior is also a part of the game, a very big part of it.
Very relevant, remark about behavior, how people in the organization behave about that. What do you think, George, about this point? A very relevant point of 𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐶 about behavior skills and relevant behavior.
Well, I was just looking there at foster a culture of AI literacy. And I don't think I'm speaking out of turn when I say this, but your Gen Z and your younger generation coming through, they've been brought up with AI, from almost day one. Whereas I'm a baby boomer, and I haven't the computers as we know them today didn't come in until I was probably about 29 years of age, somewhere around there.
Yes.
So, it's taken longer for me to learn some of the concepts of computerization than it would somebody much younger than me. And I'm just wondering, when HR look at things like recruitment, if they couldn't look at potential when they're recruiting the younger people, on whether or not they have the ability to actually teach others as well, because I think their knowledge would be useful for those of us that are of an older age that haven't been brought up with the AI in the way that they have. So perhaps there's utilization there whereby the older people can sort of explain why the systems are in place that have been in place, and the younger generation can explain how they could be computerized in a way that actually enhances employee experience.
Yep. Yeah, I really love what you say, George. And I think last week I spoke with some people, employees who are really from the Gen Z. And they also said, yeah, we know but know a bit better, are more used to work with all the new tech toolings. But they lack the expertise from what the older generation has. And they were really scared for what that means for them. Because they said, how do we check and challenge AI agents if what they say is true?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that was an interesting conversation. And that were people who really worked in a digital environment. Also working with setting up AI agents and so on. And they said, yeah, but we really need also guidance from our leadership on what does it mean for the organization? How far can we go? What are the ethics? What are the principles? How do we design? But also, how do we keep the knowledge in our organization? And how do we, as young generations, learn them? Because if AI takes over, how do we then learn the expertise? So that's interesting, really interesting and important topics, I think, in organizations.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Now I'm coming back, Alizé, to your expertise, I can say, your knowledge about what your company and what you are doing, your experience. I would like, you to share that. Is about what truly drives a successful transformation. And I would like, Keen, to you explain us what is the people change principle that you have developed based upon your experience and how you create a human-centric organization. So I'm very keen to listen from you for your experience and your principle that you have developed.
Yeah, then I have to take you back a few years. But it's my expertise is in transformations, reorganizations, as we called them in the past. And I stem from a period of time where we talked about, we create a roadmap and we move from A to B. And often we focus on the upper current, so that is on our systems, like AI, etc., the processes. We need to have the roles and the functions in place. How does our workplace look like? And then we expect people to move from A to B, and then it's finished. But that's not the case. There is an entire undercurrent, and that is about people.
Yeah.
And people are the foundation of our organization. Maybe in the future, AI will take over, but I'm not so sure. People are always the foundation of your organization, whether it's leaders, employees, customers, etc. Over the years, I learned a lot of models and related to the tangible part of change and the intangible part of change. And I thought, and discussing also with some people in transformations and in change projects, when do I use what?
Mm-hmm.
Is it only the 7S model from McKinsey, or should I also use the 𝐷𝐞𝐸 and the 𝐶𝐞 and so on and so on?
Yeah.
And then I became part of an agile transformation within a financial company. And I became part of a transformation team, leading the transformation to an agile way of working, creating business agility. And there we started to work in an iterative approach. And of course, within IT, they were already working in this way. But then we merged or combined IT and business together, and also HR and legal and so on. And that is a totally different way of working, because we started to work in a kind of sprints, like what you also do with design sprints. But still, in everything you do, also if it's small and you have your big strategy, but you make it smaller, because as human beings we find it very difficult to understand, okay, what do I have to work on now to achieve that in 3 years? So we make it smaller, and that small that we can create goals for the next quarter. But that approach needs a different way of thinking, a different way of working, different behaviors, different mindsets. And I combined everything in the people journey circle and the people change principles. And what you see in front of you, there is a lot of information behind, but we created a scan also related to these 7 principles, which is the starter always we use in transformation. So that is it's a scan of 14 questions. It's a mini scan, and of course we can go deeper and deeper and deeper. But the free scan is available on our website, and it already gives a good insight on, where do I need to pay attention to? Because that's the case. You start somewhere and then you grow to maturity, and every quarter you have a look at, where do I need to focus on next? So what you see in front of you are the people change principles we work with. In the middle, of course, people and purpose, because that's the foundation, the layer, your organization of your existence. Then, because you need to know what are the people needs from your customers, your employees, your stakeholders, etc. Is the purpose clear? The purpose of our organization, the purpose of our teams, departments. What do we work on? Is it aligned? There you come to the third bullet, but it's about the communication and awareness. How do we communicate? Do we have an interactive communication? So do we involve people in everything we do? Are they aware so that they also build a desire to work on the new changes? Then identify constraints. That is about really solving the problem. So if we feel some pain somewhere, don't put a plaster on the wound, but dive into it. What does it look like? Where does it come from? What do we need to dive deeper in before we start running on it? And this is a bit of more the hard part, the tangible part in the transformation. Also, how do we visualize? How do we, I work, for instance, with 𝐉𝐻𝐸𝐴, that's a big room planning. So how do we visualize our organization? Then next, role modeling, of course. How do we lead and how do we act? What example do we give as leaders in the organization? And that's on 3 levels. It's on organizational level, it's on team level, and it's on personal level. So also there we dive into the personal purpose. So what's my purpose? I'm not a function, right? It's not the job I am. No, I'm a person, and I have also more talents than only the things I do maybe at work. Collective intelligence, I already mentioned a bit about that, but that's really about how do you then involve and get buy-in from your organization? How do you make use of all the intelligence in your organization? So if you have people in the organization and they all have a chip, how do we make use of all these expertises to make them also shine and to see what talents are there? Then is everyone able to learn? So do we provide the spaces to learn? Are those spaces safe? What does that say about trust in our organization? And do we provide the right learning journeys? So that's also part of that, creating learning journeys for organizations. And then, of course, the ecosystem. Are we aware of the system we are working in? often, and that's also a bit, I think, given by the time we are living in, we find we have so many information coming in that we sometimes, and what I see that also employees do in organizations, it's enough to focus on our department or our team, because that's already a lot of work. But the danger is that we do not see what is going on in another part of the organization, and how does our work influence the work of others and of other departments. George already mentioned a bit about that. It's the systemic, do we understand the system? So if I change something here, what's the impact here? Yeah, that is the people change principles. It really helps organizations and leaders to create human-centric organizations, create business agility in your organization, and to really focus, human-centric, purpose-driven, and value-based.
No, very, very interesting. Thanks you, 𝐿𝐳, for this, very detailed explanation of this people change principle. And I'm sure that's, obvious for combining all of these steps. We can have this people centricity and human centricity, you can call achievement. And do you and based upon your experience, this people change principle, is it applicable? I understand in the big organization, and you have named some of the organization, but is it also applicable for small organization startup as well, or is just for bigger organization?
No, it's really applicable for all kind of organizations, and also if you are just one person organization. So because when I always explain it also in organizations, there is, and then you have your visual room, for instance, you have one room in one space in that room where you visualize your purpose, your mission, your vision, your values, and your principles. So as an organization, but also as a person, what are your principles? Because your principles are to give you guidance on what you want to work on, what your strategy should be, and what are then the topics in the organization you want to execute on, and how do they align to that, and how do you make decisions based on your principles. So
yeah, it's very interesting, 𝐿𝐳. In order, it's a tool of communication tool, right? These
yeah,
kind of things, but internally, of course, because it's not for the clients. I imagine it's only for inside the organization, right?
yeah, but it also helps you to think outside your organization, because there are a lot of things going on outside your organization, and how does that impact your customers, for instance?
Yeah.
And of course also internally, but also externally, does it change the needs of your customers? And there the ecosystem principle comes in.
Very, very interesting. Thank you so much, 𝐿𝐳, for sharing that. And Georgia, I will take you, the time, to listen to your thoughts, after in your session. But I would like, 𝐿𝐳, to discuss a bit about the transformation journey that she has, shared this slide also from her. So thank you so much for that. And my question is to you: why any transformation is a journey? Why is not a simple journey? Any transformation?
Yeah, there also comes a definition of transformation in place. What is the definition of change, and what is the definition of transformation?
Yeah.
Pretty simple explanation is change is focused on the past.
Yeah.
Transformation is focused on the future. And what do you want to achieve in the future? So it's not something you want to fix, but you walk away because you do not know what the future will bring you.
Yeah.
But you are able, if you work from your principles, etc., and also really making it tangible, what do you need to do when in the journey? And sometimes you need to adjust. So if you look at this journey, sometimes I say, okay, if you look at it really with a critical eye, you see the steps of 𝐷𝐞𝐽 in it, and the people who are here now listening and part of this space, they understand, oh yeah, 𝐷𝐞𝐽, that's change management, of course, and their change management comes in the journey. So the awareness, the desire to be part of it, how do we start experimenting, etc. But lay the foundation, climate for change, that's really the start. But you need to, if you look at this journey, you see some icons of communication, small icons of communication in it. You need to repeat the communication and the why over and over again. If you think people know it by now, then start again. Start to do that, do it over and over again. And in this journey, it looks like that it's finished at the end, make the changes stick. So that's not the case. You always need to repeat and to see, evaluate, okay, are we still working on the topics that really make impact, that really are of value? So that's the sprint, the iterative way of working. But it is a journey because we need to learn new behaviors. And what I already explained before, we often fall back, and most organizations who really want to transform to a new way of working and thinking, to creating agility and so on in their organization, we see you fall back after 2 years. That's often the case, that you fall back in the usual habits you had before. So you need to keep each other sharp on that. But it's a journey. It takes a few years,
Yeah.
And a continuous way. That's also what comes in. It's no longer A to B, but it's a continuous evolution. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you, 𝐿𝐸, for your, thoughtful, recommendation about HR transformation. Any transformation that you highlight about communication is the key factor for the success. And it's very important that, we take account that communication, repeating, as you rightly said, very inspiring transformation journey. George, I will let you, to if you would like, to react on this transformation journey now, or in your, section. What do you like?
Well, first of all, I love the ecosystem that was put up. That's great. And when I look at that and tie it in with the transformation journey that we have here, it's, although we need to look at roles for people, we also need to think about skills and potential as well from an HR point of view, especially in recruitment, where you can actually role play in the recruitment process.
Yeah.
So you get an opportunity to actually see what potential is there. But certainly, everything I've seen there, I love. I love the ecosystem. I love the transformation journey that's up here. It's really for HR to get their heads around this now and decide, how they're going to manage their side of it, which is going to be looking at skills, looking at potential, looking at the way in which human performance is managed within that transformation journey. So yeah, I love it.
Thank you so much for that. We have a question from Trimulesh, that he has: how to inculcate the values of new ways of working, especially in the AI area. 𝐿𝐸, what is your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think if you, because there was also another question, what needs to be prioritized?
Yes, this one.
I really believe in, if the purpose, the mission, the vision, the values, and the principles are not clear, what are we working on then? And if you have your principles and your values, and you work with AI agents, robots, whatever, they should be aligned to your organizational values and principles, always. So what my advice would be, put them big on your wall. And if you are starting to prioritize with your team, then look at them. Is what we are doing aligned with the values and the principles? And if you don't have them, start to create them first. That would be my advice.
A very absolutely nice advice, and thank you so much. I hope that Tiramilesh, Alizé has a reply very, very meaningfully to you. As you know, Alizé and George, we are very late for this session, but let's have sometimes for our HR News Spotlight this week's highlight news that I have selected two news that I have also shared, this week in my LinkedIn is about what is a good job for you. And very important, there was a research that I shared that it brings much needed clarity on question that many of us in our lives, thinks about what truly defines a good job. It's a deeply personal question, but we feel like that it's about one thing is clear, that when job offer predictability, fair pay, room to grow, and respect for personal time, everyone benefits. And how we redefine is just more about how we define success as well, because a good job is about success. It's about pay. Some people are saying, no, it's not about pay, but in the comments in my post. But I think also come with pay. Not maybe the first part, but compensation is part of it. What do you think, Alizé, about that? What is a good job for you?
Yeah, that's very personal.
Yeah.
But what you say about pay, if things are going wrong at home and you don't have enough money to have a living, then pay becomes very important above everything. So that's always the case. But if you have that, then for me personally, my job, what I do during the day should be part of my purpose. And I had the opportunity in 2017 to create my purpose. That's not only one sentence, but there's a whole story behind it. And I think that's, what you now see on screen defines it very well, because it is about equity, respect, and voice, and being able to let people shine based on purpose, because we are so much more. And I think we do not make enough, and use is a bit of a not nice word, but use of all the talents of people in the organization. So for me personally, a good job should really be related to my purpose, to my values and principles, which are also related to what you see here at the screen. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Thank you so much, Alizé. Question number 2, HR news number 2 that I have selected is about about the reality of today's in hiring is about the explosion of AI generated resume or CVs. On one hand, we have candidates are embracing Gen AI tools to tailor their application, to put keywords, nice keywords, to be attractive, resume. And in the other hand, we have recruiters are facing the tidal wave of nearly resume, many of them crafted by the same algorithm. And so one of the case of the news is that that, for example, in also in LinkedIn, also that LinkedIn alone is now processing over 1,000 applications per minute, and it's a surge from last year. And this has created a lot of what we call AI arms race, candidates using bots to apply, employers deploying, also bots to screen. So there is a big issue. So here's the question: how can HR teams cut through this AI-generated noise to find authentic, qualified, real talent that they need to success in their business?
Yeah, I was thinking about this also the entire week, but it's also for me it's a difficult question, because I also see this, and it reminds me of a conversation I had with an executive, and we had a conversation about if you use AI, and we all use AI, also as an if you are an applicant, a candidate, you become very average because it's not your tone of voice. It's not who you are.
Yeah.
So we should think about a different way of asking questions, maybe not just handing in resumes,
Yeah.
but maybe handing in questions, give your opinion, and then filter out the AI. And of course, that also becomes difficult because we have all kinds of toolings that we can say, okay, these are good sentences because it's zero AI.
Yeah.
But I think the interpersonal conversations, the face-to-face conversations, become very important again, because I see people falling out of this process who are really can be very beneficial for your organization.
Yeah.
And that's a pity. So I don't have the right answer, but I see it happen, and I think that building the relationships, networking, face-to-face conversations are becoming even more important.
Exactly. No, thank you so much for this inspiring answer. Absolutely, face-to-face conversation, discussion like that, even we are not, face-to-face, but we are looking at each other instead of, just the text is very, very important. George, what do you think about, this last subject? Do you think?
Well, I'm going to come back to the last one, which was AI generated
Yeah.
resume.
Yeah.
Because I was an employability mentor at the University of Lincoln here in the UK.
Yeah.
And I always used to tell my students that it's the resume or curriculum vitae, whatever you want to call it, that will get you to the interview. And if you're using AI, and what's being said there is absolutely right. You use AI, and all of a sudden everybody becomes average because they're not putting across their own version of themselves.
Yeah.
And that makes it very difficult. And I know a lot of organizations now that if they think that the resume has been AI generated, they will bin it straight away. They won't even look at it. So, I think anybody, certainly people looking for employment and looking to apply for jobs, needs to look at what they're doing. AI is great, but I don't think it's that great, because I think AI will put things into the resume that when it comes to interview, and that's, you have to think about the fact that it's the resume that will get you to the interview. Once you get to the interview, if AI has put something in your resume,
yeah,
and you're being asked a question on it, and all of a sudden you're going, well, what's that? I didn't put it in there. That was AI. Then you're going to come unstuck at the interview process. So I think people have to be very careful with AI, that, they understand the fact that they need to come across as themselves, not just to interview, but in their resume as well. And they need to understand what's in their resume when they start being asked questions at interview. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So yeah, I'm absolutely, I totally agree.
Yeah, thank you so much, George, for your George Take section. We'll take one question, Lise, for you from Malit Bogo. She's asking how you tackle the readiness of most of organization. Share the benefits that you have seen in your experience.
Yeah, when I work with organizations in transformations, whether it's AI or something else, what I already explained a bit in our model, we always first start at, are we change ready? How do we do on certain principles, certain topics, whether you use our model or you use the 7S or another topic. You always start with where you are now. It's nice to have, no, not nice, it's a must to have your aspired situation, but also go back to where you are now and take it from there. And the moment you do that in the organizations, we help you see an increase of engagement because people feel that you pay attention to them and go beyond paying attention, that they have the time and the space to learn and also to bring in their insights. So it's not only we are working on this job and the leaders explaining we want to go there. No, you are involved in creating and building that future together.
Yeah.
And also then if you are able to do that, then more talents come out of the person than what you would normally see. And that is the real benefit. And organizations who take time to do that, and of course organizations always have a different journey. There is no one size fits all, and they all take a different kind of approach. But first, understanding where are we now and where do we want to go to, okay? But where are we now, and take it from there. And one step at a time.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Takeaway for this, I would like to thanks everyone in the in the chat and all the questions that you have asked. I would like thanks everyone that joined the session with 𝐿𝐸, that she shared incredible insight about transformation, about her experience, and massive thank you to everyone who joined. Let's continue this conversation in the comments. I'm sure that 𝐿𝐸, George will reply to your question after this event. Stay connected, stay inspired, I can say. Keep leading the purpose, and Lunch and Learn will come back every Friday at 12:30 with fresh topics, another fresh topics next week. If today's conversation sparked curiosity, I encourage you, to explore this. And if you missed this conversation and this inspiring, insight that's shared by 𝐿𝐸, you can, look at the recording that is available in LinkedIn and in YouTube. Thank you all for joining today's session. Don't forget, we'll be back next Friday, lunchtime in Europe. Thank you so much, 𝐿𝐸. Have a great weekend. Thank you for your time. We are more than 1 hour and 70 minutes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me here, Nicolas, and also great to meet you, George, today in live here in LinkedIn. Thank you.
It's been lovely to meet you as well, 𝐿𝐸, and there's a lot that you've spoken about there that is thought-provoking and things that we can take away, that we can actually look at and learn more about. Yeah. As I say, I'm a baby boomer, so when it comes to AI, yes, I understand a fair bit of how it can be concepted, but the actual use of it is I'm probably not as good as somebody that's possibly 30 years my junior. So there's a lot for me to learn, and thank you very much indeed. And I absolutely love the ecosystem that you showed, and also the transformation journey. I thought that was brilliant.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, George. Thank you, 𝐿𝐸. Have a great weekend. I will also share the resume of this and summary of this, conversation in my Sunday newsletter that I will share with all of you. Have a great weekend. Nice weekend. Thank you so much. Bye.
And
bye.
Bye for now. Take